Welcome back to our channel. Today we are exploring Indiana's Underground Railroad history.
Today we're in Fountain City, Indiana, checking out a place with some serious history, the Levi Coffin House. Some people call it the Grand Central Station of the Underground Railroad, and once you hear the stories behind it, you'll understand why.
So here's the deal. Back in the 1800s, Levi and Katherine Coffin were a Quaker couple who moved here from North Carolina. They didn't just talk about being against slavery, they actually did something about it. Their home became one of the busiest stops on the Underground Railroad, helping thousands of people on their journey to freedom.
From the outside, this looks like a simple brick house, but step inside and you'll find all kinds of clever design choices. Multiple rooms had extra doors so people could slip out quickly if needed. There's even a spring-fed well in the basement, so guests, many of them escaping slavery, could get water without stepping outside and drawing attention.
So you might have imagined that those resting on their journey here in the house would be kept in hiding, maybe up in the back. That is not at all the case. Those who are here are relatively safe, not only because the whole community knows what's going on, but Levi has spies down in Richmond. They are listening into the conversations of the bounty hunters. They are going to report plans to Levi. He's got people on either side of town that are stopping strangers, chatting them up, wasting their time while Levi is being informed of what's going on. He said he always had a horse and wagon ready and that he could get people out of town very quickly. Several different routes to those 3 locations north of here. So the bounty hunters aren't really a threat either. And the people here in the home then are free to be part of the household, he tells us. Free to move around the household, take part of the activities, take their meals with the Coffins. This is how the household works. He said everyone in his home was a guest. He expected them to be treated like guests. He called them guests. And that's what we are today. We're guests of the Coffins here in their home. You know about Katherine, what he tells us is that they were childhood friends together in North Carolina. He describes her as lively and intelligent. And he said that she shared his dedication. Nearly 40 years they do this. There is danger. There will be other times that are lean, even after this, moving from here. No matter what, they are dedicated to this work. And Levi said Katherine was just as dedicated as he was. He also said that everybody called her Aunt Katie, so she sounds like a nice lady. No doubt she was. But she needed to be a tough lady too, because like I said, the Coffins are breaking the law. Levi could go to jail for breaking the Fugitive Slave Act, the federal law. More often in this area, people were fined, and fines began at $1,000 or more. That's more than $25,000 or more in today's money. It's meant to ruin people. That was the point. That the bounty hunters that have been chasing Jim and his group are just miles down the road. They're going to get here very quickly. Levi has no time to organize 15 people into wagons and get them out of town. He's going to need to do the next best thing. And as a man who designed this house, not hard to imagine that he did design a hiding space into this house, and that's what we're going to visit next, where where Levi hid Jim and his family here in the house. But what we do know is that Levi did hide Jim and his family in this space. He called it the Garrett. And so we know he hid Jim and his family in the Garrett. Now, this is 15 feet to that wall, 3.5 feet across. Roof slant comes down over it like a tunnel. Today it's not too hot. It's been like steamy in there. It can get cold in the winter as well. And we don't know how long Jim and his family stayed in this space. They would have had to stay here hours, possibly days. They can't leave until the bounty hunters leave, and the Coffins are certain no one will arrive with that search warrant. So they're going to stay into the space till it's safe for them to leave and get sent north. Jim is successful. He gets his family to Canada. Here in this room, I'm going to tell you another story from Levi's book. This is the story of the Wilkinson sisters, 2 young sisters, he tells us, probably about 12 and 13. They're young teenagers. They escape Tennessee all by themselves, a plantation in Tennessee, and all by themselves, they make it up to Cabin Creek, where their grandparents lived, before the bounty hunters catch up with them. Levi said Grandma stood in the one door of her cabin. She had a knife. She said, "No one's getting past me." He said the entire community came out, 200 people, he describes, to surround her cabin, keep the bounty hunters from getting close. They're putting up a fuss with the bounty hunters, distracting them. While that's going on, two boys quietly slip past Grandma into the house, and then a little while later, two boys quietly slip past Grandma out of the house. People with horses were going to bring the boys here because, of course, those are the girls escaping under the noses of the bounty hunters in the boys' clothing, now safe in this house. However, the next day, Katherine finds out bounty hunters are now in town, knocking on doors, asking questions. She's home alone because Levi's down in his store. And Levi said she decided to hide the girls just in case. And he said she hid them in the middle of the bed between two feather mattresses. Now she can pat the bed down and make it look like a regular bed and go about her work. But Levi said it didn't take long before the giggling started. And it kept getting louder and louder, and now Katherine has to find out what is going on. The girls are in the middle of a big fit, making a lot of noise. Levi said they were overexcited because they had outsmarted the bounty hunters. This is what has them laughing and carrying on. And Katherine, of course, wanting to keep them quiet, did what any of us would do with teenage girls. She separated them, putting them into two different beds, he said, until the dangers pass and the girls will make it successfully to Canada. Now, he found this story astounding. He notes it because he said they didn't see many children on the railroad, always arriving with adults. This is the only story of children running on their own, successfully making it on this journey of escape. I also think it's a very human story because the girls are not naive. They do know what will happen to them if they are recaptured. And yet they can't help being giggly teenage girls because that's who they are. Everybody in here. So what you're seeing is a well. If you lean down underneath the shelf, you have to kind of lean down to look under the shelf. You can see the remnant of the concrete in the corner there, so you have a sense of how much they had to dig out. So when they get all the dirt and debris out of the well, it just fills right back up with water again. Now, the bricks on the inside are original. That is the original well. The bricks on top are part of a restoration. That well is, those bricks are not mortared. There's just dirt between them. So Levi knew there was an underground spring on the property. A town named Fountain City has a lot of underground springs. So he sinks a well where the spring is. And that's what you're seeing. The water is just able to filter right through those bricks. But it does beg the question, what was he thinking? Why put a well in this house when he's got a big creek? Remember I mentioned the mill? Nolan's Fork on the back of this property. Now before I go forward with that, I do want to break the surface here so you can see this really is a working well. Still a good well today. So I'm going to stop in the barn here to look at an example of a false bottom wagon. Everybody on the railroad in this area was moved by false bottom wagon. And through all the years of the railroad, this is what they used. Everybody knew that, even the bounty hunters would have known. Can't keep it away from them. Now, if you can imagine these boards here all the way to the end. So now there really is a false bottom. People can be hidden underneath. Obviously a gate's gonna go up. Bags of seed and hay on top make it look like a regular wagon. Now, even though the bounty hunters know about it, there's not much they can do. There's a lot of wagons on the road. I told you Levi got wagons out of town before they ever got here. Several routes, he said, he could send them north. And not only that, they still need a search warrant to stop a wagon and search it. So for all those reasons,
Some of the people who passed through here shared stories that stuck, like William Bush, who once hid in a wooden crate that ended up here. Talk about nerve-wracking.
The Coffins weren't working alone. This house was part of a massive network of safe houses, but it was at a crossroads where a lot of major escape routes came together, which is why it got the nickname Grand Central. Between the 1820s and 1840s, Levi and Katherine helped more than 2,000 people right here in Indiana, and thousands more after they moved to Ohio.
Today, the Levi Coffin House is a National Historic Landmark. You can tour the rooms, see the original woodwork, and even peek into the hiding spots. Standing in those same spaces where people risk everything for freedom, it's powerful, way more than just a history lesson.
So if you're ever in Eastern Indiana, definitely put this on your list. The Levi Coffin House isn't just a cool old building. It's a reminder of courage, compassion, and what it means to stand up for what's right. Thanks for hanging out with us today. And if you love discovering hidden history like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
So Levi and Katherine did this work for nearly 40 years, as I said before, and Levi estimated they helped about 3,500 people to freedom in those years. So that's 40 years of danger, of difficulty. Like I said, they're going to go through other lean times and other stressors, but they continue doing this. They never are swayed from this job that to Levi was really his life's work. Now I want to point out another number as a comparison. As I said, they helped 3,500 people to freedom. But when the war began in this country, there were 4 million enslaved people. It's 1 out of every 8 Americans at that time. The railroad was never going to make an impact on the problem of slavery. They could help whom they could help, and that's all they could do for those individuals. Absolutely everything, of course. This is a story of courage, the courage of the Coffins to live their convictions for 40 years. It's impressive, and it's my privilege to tell their story. Courage of people like William Bush, for whom the dangers are greater. It's another level. And finally, the greatest courage of all in this story, which deserves our reflection. Levi certainly talked about it, and that's the courage of those who made a decision to run for freedom. Frederick Douglass said it was a choice for death and the hope of freedom. And you may have noticed our quote downstairs where he talks about the intense agony of making that decision. For those who did that, they knew they wouldn't make it. They knew the chances were slim that they would succeed. And yet they still made that choice. And that is a level of courage that's impossible to imagine and worthy of our reflection on this tour as well.